My name is Kate Carmichael. I am 68 years old, and for the last 4 decades, my life had been a meticulously organized tapestry of love, intellect, and quiet contentment. I was a retired professor of American Studies, specializing in historical archives and hidden narratives. My days were spent in the hushed, scent-laden quiet of old libraries, unearthing forgotten stories, piecing together fragments of the past, and finding beauty in the subtle clues left behind by time. This meticulous nature, this almost obsessive attention to detail, was not just a profession, it was a part of my very being, a trait my beloved husband, Robert, often teased me about, even as he admired it. Robert. The very name still brings a soft ache to my heart. He was an architect, a visionary, building towering structures that scraped the sky and beautiful, comforting homes that anchored families to the earth. We had shared a life rich in passion and partnership, building not just a home, but a universe together. Our understanding was unspoken, profound. We communicated in glances, in shared silences, in the subtle rhythm of two souls perfectly attuned. Even when Parkinson's began to steal his physical vitality in his later years, his mind remained sharp, his spirit unyielding, and our connection, if anything, deepened. I had spent the last 7 months of his life sleeping on a small cot beside his hospital bed, tending to his every need, my hand always in his, a silent promise of enduring love. Then, he was gone. The funeral was a blur of polite condolences and hushed whispers. Robert, a man who believed funerals should be loud, messy affairs filled with genuine grief and laughter, would have hated it. His daughter, Diana, me stepdaughter, though I had raised her since she was 10, had orchestrated everything with chilling precision. Every flower, every piece of music, every word spoken by the eulogist felt rehearsed, cold, flawless, as if we were attending the final act of a play rather than mourning a man who had touched so many lives. Diana, a prominent corporate lawyer in her late 30s, moved through the grieving crowd with the polished efficiency of a CEO managing a hostile takeover, her face a mask of composed sorrow that barely concealed a calculating gleam in her eyes. She accepted condolences with a tight, practiced smile, always steering the conversation back to Robert's legacy, which, increasingly, sounded suspiciously like her legacy. I stood alone in the manicured garden after the last guests had departed, watching the procession of sleek black cars disappear down the tree-lined driveway. They left behind half-empty cups, discarded paper napkins, and the cloying scent of lilies. No one lingered. No one asked if I needed a ride home. Not even Diana. She was already inside, gathering folders from the dining table, her movements sharp and decisive. I cleared my throat, ready to speak, to offer to help, to simply connect. But she didn't look up, just kept stacking papers like an automaton. Then, without turning, she said, her voice devoid of warmth, "We'll be moving ahead with the legal processing next week. I've arranged everything with the firm. No mention of me, no question about what I wanted or how I felt, no acknowledgement of the 6 months I had spent tending to Robert, feeding him, bathing him, holding him as he slipped away while she was too busy flying off to high-profile conferences and networking events. I wanted to believe it was just stress, or grief, or maybe she simply didn't know how to talk to me. But then, she handed me a small, unadorned box with Robert's name written on a plain white sticker. "He asked me to give you this," she said, her tone flat, as if delivering a forgotten package. Inside was a simple silver tie clip. Just a tie clip. No note. No letter. Robert, a man who filled drawers with journals and letters, who left me handwritten notes even when we were in the same house, had left me only a tie clip, and not even one he wore often. Diana, offered a polite, almost dismissive smile, then turned and walked away, as if she had closed the book on both of us, on our entire life together. That night, I sat in the kitchen, the silence in the house deafening, amplified by the unfamiliar void Robert had left behind. My cup of tea grew cold in my hands. For the first time since he passed, I felt like a stranger in the home we had built together, a home that still smelled faintly of his aftershave, where his books still lined the hallway. It was as if my name had been quietly erased from every room, from every memory, from every corner of the life we had shared. I tried to tell myself I was overthinking, that it was just the exhaustion, the grief. But a coldness had settled in the air, a presence I couldn't name, and it wasn't just from sorrow. It felt as if I had been quietly written out of the story, as if everyone else had received a new script, a new role, but me. Have you ever looked around your own home and felt like a stranger in it? That's what I felt that night, and it was only the beginning. The invitation came via email, cold and formal, sent from Diana's assistant, not even from her. The subject line read, "Estate Administration Meeting Scheduled." I stared at it for a long time, unsure whether to feel insulted or just numb. The meeting was set for Wednesday, 9 a.m., at her firm's opulent downtown office in Chicago. No personal message, no hope you're holding up, just a time and a place, like a dental appointment. That morning, I arrived 5 minutes late. Traffic had been a nightmare, and I had stopped twice, unsure if I should even go. The elevator opened to a sleek reception area that smelled faintly of eucalyptus and expensive printer ink. A young assistant with perfectly coiffed hair gave me a fleeting, dismissive look, as if she wasn't expecting someone like me. I smoothed down my coat, a simple but elegant wool, and followed her into the conference room. The door closed behind me with a soft click, sealing me into a world I barely recognized. 7 people were already seated around the long, polished mahogany table, all in dark, meticulously tailored suits. Diana sat at the head, her hair pulled back in a severe bun, her eyes fixed on a towering stack of folders in front of her. She didn't stand. She didn't say hello. She just nodded slightly, a curt, imperious gesture that seemed to say, "You can sit over there." I took the seat at the far end, the only empty chair, away from the neatly arranged packets, away from the steaming coffee carafes. No one slid me a packet. No one offered a word of comfort. Diana cleared her throat, her voice sharp and professional, like she was hosting a board meeting. "As executive of the estate," she began, "I'll be walking us through the distribution of assets as laid out in the finalized will." I sat quietly, my hands folded in my lap, my gaze fixed on her. I was the only one not holding a pen, the only one without a stack of documents before me. She proceeded to drone on, listing stocks, trust accounts, 2 commercial properties in bustling downtown Chicago, and Robert's partial ownership of a sprawling Napa Valley winery he had invested in with lifelong friends. Then, she announced, with a triumphant glint in her eyes, that Robert had transferred primary control of the family trust to her 6 months prior. I blinked. That wasn't possible. I had been managing that trust with Robert for nearly 20 years. It was our joint endeavor, our shared financial legacy. He had never mentioned anything about transferring it to her, not a word. My mind raced, trying to reconcile her words with my memories, but they refused to align. Diana continued without pause, reading off allocations like she was listing inventory. My name didn't come up, not once. The room hummed with the soft rustle of papers, the occasional cough, but no one seemed to notice my absence from the narrative. At the very end, one of the junior associates, a fresh-faced young man who looked genuinely uncomfortable, finally spoke up, his voice hesitant. "And Mrs. Carmichael's share?" Diana barely looked up. Her response was a clipped, indifferent whisper. "There are no remaining distributions assigned to her under the current filing." Just like that. No eye contact, no explanation, just the legal version of being erased. I felt a strange, cold heat rise up my spine, a sensation of disbelief mingled with something akin to white-hot fury, but my hands stayed still, folded in my lap. I didn't say a word. The room went quiet for a second too long, a suffocating silence that seemed to vibrate with unspoken tension, but no one addressed it. The meeting continued, wrapping up with discussions of probate and tax implications, details that now felt utterly irrelevant to my suddenly barren financial landscape. When it was over, I waited for everyone else to leave, the clicking of their heels echoing in the sterile room. Diana slowly packed her briefcase, almost as if she were expecting me to say something, to protest, to beg, but I didn't. I stood, adjusted the silk scarf around my neck, and walked out without looking back. Downstairs, the sharp Chicago air slapped my cheeks, a bracing shock. I didn't cry. I didn't even feel sad yet, just hollow, like I had watched a version of my life fold itself into a document and get filed away under someone else's name. Diana hadn't just claimed Robert's estate. She had, in one cruel, sweeping gesture, tried to erase me from the very fabric of his life, to deny our decades together, to render me invisible. But what Diana didn't know, what she couldn't possibly fathom, was that Robert had played a much longer game. Our shared life had been built on a foundation of trust and meticulous planning, a trait he had learned from me, honed through years of careful architectural blueprints and hidden historical narratives. His love for puzzles, his deep understanding of structures, extended far beyond buildings. He saw life itself as a complex system, and he was always, 10 steps ahead. That night, as I sat in the silent house, the tie clip felt heavy in my palm. Just a silver clip, I had thought at the funeral. But now, after the cold dismissal, after being legally annihilated, I looked at it differently. It was the only tangible thing from Robert she had allowed me to have. Why this? And not a letter, a photo, anything more personal. My historian's mind, accustomed to seeing clues where others saw only coincidence, began to hum. This wasn't random. Nothing Robert did was random. I examined the tie clip under the bright light of the kitchen. It was simple, unadorned, exactly as I remembered. But then, my thumb brushed against a tiny, almost invisible ridge on its side. It was our private symbol, a stylized infinity loop that Robert had designed for my engagement ring, a symbol of our unending love. But this wasn't on the ring. It was on the tie clip, positioned precisely where his thumb would rest when he secured it to his tie. And beneath it, another almost imperceptible detail, a tiny etched P. P. Patrick, Robert's middle name. It was a clue, not a random gift. Robert had always communicated through layers, through hidden meanings, through patterns. My mind, usually calm and methodical, began to race. This was a puzzle, a final, intricate message from beyond the grave. I spent the next few days in a quiet frenzy, poring over old photos of Robert, searching for any other ties with this particular clip. I found it in dozens of pictures, always pinned to a specific navy blue silk tie, one he wore only for significant occasions, usually when he was signing important contracts or attending major financial meetings. The tie itself was unremarkable, a classic pattern, but it was his favorite. I pulled out the tie from his closet. It still carried his faint scent, a bittersweet comfort. I examined it, running my fingers over the silk. Nothing. No hidden pockets. No unusual stitching. But then, I remembered something Robert had once said about his custom-made suits. Always check the lining, Kate. That's where the real secrets are kept. I carefully turned the tie over, feeling along the lining, and there it was. A thin, almost imperceptible slit in the silk, sewn with a thread that was slightly darker than the rest, camouflaged perfectly. With trembling fingers, I eased open the stitching. Inside, tucked into a narrow, perfectly stitched pocket, was a minuscule folded piece of paper. It was not much larger than a postage stamp, and it felt impossibly thin, yet substantial in my hand. I unfolded it with painstaking care. It was Robert's elegant handwriting, familiar and comforting, but the words were a shock. Not a letter, not a will. It was a single, cryptic instruction. The true measure of a man is not in what he leaves behind, but in what he protects. Look to the foundations, my love. The heart of the labyrinth. The first stone. Ark. Hives, the 14th of February, 1978. A date. The 14th of February, 1978. Our first Valentine's Day together. We had spent it in the dusty, quiet archives of the university library, where I was a young researcher and he was a promising architecture student, helping me find obscure historical documents for my thesis. Archives. It wasn't a word. It was an acronym. Archives. But what archives? My mind went back to our early days, to the very beginning of our life together. Robert's first major architectural project after graduating, the one that launched his career. It was the renovation of the old, neglected public library in our hometown, turning it into a modern, state-of-the-art research facility. He had poured his heart and soul into that project. He had called it his first stone, the foundation of his professional life, and the heart of the labyrinth. That was how Robert had always described the main reading room of that library, with its towering shelves, spiral staircases, and hidden alcoves. It was a place we both loved, a place where our love story had truly begun. I knew, with a certainty that vibrated through my very bones, that I had to go back to that library. The tie clip, the hidden note, the cryptic message, it was all a breadcrumb trail, meticulously laid by a man who knew he might not have the chance to speak his truth aloud. He had anticipated Diana's greed. He had seen the cold calculation in her eyes, probably long before I ever did. This was his final act of protection, his final testament of love. The next morning, I drove to our old hometown, a charming New England town nestled among rolling hills. The old library, now a beautiful, modern building, still stood proud. The scent of old paper and polished wood filled the air, a nostalgic comfort. I walked past the bustling reception area, my gaze sweeping over the familiar architectural details Robert had designed. I made my way to the archives, where I used to spend hours researching. The head archivist, a kind woman named Eleanor, whom I vaguely remembered from years ago, greeted me warmly. "Professor Carmichael! It's been ages. How can I help you?" "I'm hoping to access some old architectural plans," I said, my voice steady, though my heart pounded. Specifically, the original blueprints for this renovation, from 1978. Robert Carmichael's plans. Eleanor smiled. "Ah, the Carmichael wing. A masterpiece. We keep all the original drawings in a special vault. Robert was quite meticulous, you know. He insisted on documenting every single detail, even the hidden ones." She led me through a series of dimly lit corridors, past rows of ancient texts, until we reached a heavy steel door marked restricted access. Inside, the vault was cool and dry, filled with flat files and oversized drawers. Eleanor pulled out a large, heavy blueprint tube. "These are the originals," she said, carefully unrolling a massive sheet of paper that covered the entire table. It was the blueprint of the main reading room, intricately detailed, with every column, every shelf, every spiral staircase meticulously drawn. I scanned the blueprint, my eyes searching for any anomaly, any detail that didn't quite fit, and then I saw it. A faint, almost imperceptible symbol, so subtle it was practically part of the architectural drafting lines. It was the infinity loop, our symbol, etched near the foundation of the central support column in the main reading room, where Robert had poured the first stone of the renovation. And next to it, even smaller, a series of coordinates. My hands trembled as I took a pencil and carefully transcribed the numbers onto a piece of paper. This was it. This was the heart of the labyrinth. I thanked Eleanor, folded the blueprint, and left the library, my mind buzzing. The coordinates led to a precise location within the library's central reading room, to a specific section of shelving devoted to, ironically, American legal history. My own field, a subtle nod from Robert, who knew I would be the one to find it. I returned to the library that afternoon, armed with a newfound resolve. I found the exact shelf, the specific book-a-thick, leather-bound volume on constitutional law, its pages yellowed with age. Robert had given me this book as a gift years ago, a light-hearted jab at my preference for history over law. It had sat on our shelves, unread, for decades. I pulled it out. It was heavier than it looked. And then, as I opened it, a small, meticulously cut cavity in the pages, a hollow rectangle, revealed itself. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded velvet, was a single sealed envelope, and a small, antique, solid gold key. My hands shook as I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter, thick and weighty. Robert's handwriting, unmistakable. "My dearest Kate, if you are reading this, It means I am gone, and Diana has done precisely what I feared she would. I have seen the avarice in her eyes, a hunger that goes beyond mere ambition. She believes she can erase you from our life, from my legacy. She believes she can take everything. But she underestimates you, my love. She underestimates our bond. And she underestimates the meticulous nature of an old architect who planned for every contingency, even the betrayal of his own flesh and blood. I knew this day would come. I observed Diana's true character, her cold calculation, her profound sense of entitlement. She is a lawyer, yes, but she lacks true vision, true integrity. She sees only the surface, the immediate gain. And that, my dear, is her fatal flaw. She never looked beyond the blueprints she thought she understood. She never sought the hidden meanings. The will she will present is valid, in its way. I allowed her to believe she had control, to believe her machinations had succeeded. But I had prepared for this. For years, I have been building a separate legacy, a true legacy, one hidden from her grasping hands. It is a trust, meticulously structured, far more substantial than anything in the public will, designed to protect you, and only you, for the rest of your days. It is currently valued at approximately $77 million, a testament to decades of careful, ethical investment, far removed from the volatile ventures Diana might have encountered. The key you hold in your hand is for a safe deposit box at the Old City Bank on Main Street. It is account number 14021978. That date, the 14th of February, 1978, our first Valentine's Day, is not just a romantic memory, it is the code. Inside, you will find the full documentation for the trust, along with my final, true will. It is irrevocable, ironclad, established years ago and updated regularly, held in a legal framework that even Diana's sharpest legal mind will not be able to dismantle. It is administered by a private, discreet legal firm I have trusted for decades, a firm with no ties to Diana or her associates. I watched her, Kate. I saw her impatience, her growing disdain for your quiet strength, your selfless devotion to me. She sees only the monetary value, never the priceless worth of love and companionship. Let her believe she has won her paltry victory. Let her grasp at the shadow. You, my love, will hold the substance. Forgive me for the pain this will inevitably cause you, for the charade I had to maintain, but it was the only way to ensure your future, to protect you from her insatiable greed. This is my final act of love, my final architecture. Build your new life, my dearest. Live it with joy, with freedom. The only legacy that matters is the one built on truth, on love, on a foundation that can never be shaken. Always, Robert. I stood there in the quiet archives, the letter trembling in my hands, hot tears finally streaming down my face. Not tears of grief, but of profound understanding, of overwhelming love, of a fierce, protective triumph. Robert, my brilliant, meticulous Robert, had done it. He had seen it all, planned it all, protected me, even from beyond the grave. He had played Diana's game, and he had won, not out of malice, but out of an unwavering love that transcended even death. The next morning, I walked into the Old City Bank. The vault was a cool, cavernous space, filled with rows of gleaming metal boxes. I presented the key and the account number. The clerk, a stoic woman with a kind smile, led me to a private viewing room. Inside the safe deposit box was a thick folder labeled The Kate Carmichael Irrevocable Trust, along with Robert's true last will and testament. The total value, as detailed in the meticulously organized documents, was indeed closer to $77 million, not the $52 million Diana had announced, and it was all mine, legally, irrevocably. Armed with these documents, I contacted a highly reputable, discreet probate lawyer, a senior partner at a firm recommended by one of my former university colleagues, known for handling complex, sensitive estate cases. His name was Mr. Harrison. He listened patiently as I recounted the entire story, from the tie clip to to the hidden message, to the true will. As I finished, Mr. Harrison, a man known for his unflappable demeanor, slowly leaned back in his chair, a broad, genuine smile spreading across his face. He began to chuckle, a low, rumbling sound that quickly escalated into hearty, unrestrained laughter. "Mrs. Carmichael," he managed between gasps, wiping a tear from his eye. "Your husband, bless his soul, was a genius, an absolute, unmitigated genius." His laughter was not cruel, but one of pure professional admiration, a recognition of Robert's extraordinary foresight and cunning. "This is exquisite," Mr. Harrison said, composing himself. "This trust is a work of art, Mrs. Carmichael," ironclad. "And the original will, while seemingly valid, is practically rendered null by this. Your stepdaughter, bless her heart, is about to learn a very painful lesson about underestimating the deceased, and more importantly, about underestimating you." The following weeks were a whirlwind of legal maneuvering. Mr. Harrison filed a challenge to the initial probate, presenting Robert's true will and the comprehensive trust documents. Diana's firm was blindsided. They had conducted minimal due diligence, confident in their easy victory. The news spread like wildfire through the elite legal circles of Chicago. The initial will reading, so dismissive of me, now seemed like a cruel joke, a grand theatrical display of hubris. Diana, furious and disbelieving, immediately launched a countersuit, accusing me of fraud, of forging documents, of manipulating Robert in his final days. She tried to leverage her reputation, her connections, her sharp legal mind. But she was fighting against Robert's meticulous planning, against Mr. Harrison's strategic brilliance, and ultimately, against the unyielding truth. The court case that followed was not a quiet, private affair like the first will reading. It was a public spectacle, the kind that filled the society pages and captivated local news. Diana, who craved control and discretion, found herself dragged into a brutal, humiliating legal battle where every one of her calculating moves was exposed. My testimony was calm, factual, and devastating. I recounted every detail, from the tie clip to the hidden note to the key, painting a picture of Robert's profound love and his foresight in anticipating Diana's betrayal. Mr. Harrison presented irrefutable evidence of the trust's long-standing existence, its regular updates, and the legitimate legal team that had overseen its creation for years, far beyond any manipulation Diana could allege. The moment the judge delivered the verdict, I felt a quiet sense of peace. The initial will was effectively overturned. The trust, irrevocably established for my benefit, stood firm. Diana's countersuit was dismissed with prejudice, her claims deemed baseless and malicious. The judge, a stern but fair woman, issued a biting rebuke, condemning Diana's egregious disregard for the deceased's true intentions and the profound disrespect shown to a grieving widow. Diana, usually so composed, crumbled. Her face, once a mask of control, contorted in a mixture of disbelief and utter defeat. She had lost everything she thought she had gained, and her reputation, once pristine, was now irrevocably stained. The headlines screamed her downfall. "Heiress's scheme unraveled by husband's hidden will. Judge slams daughter. In-law's egregious greed. Architect's final act of love secures widow's fortune." Diana's law firm, facing intense scrutiny and public backlash, quietly severed ties with her. She vanished from the public eye, her once promising career in ruins, her carefully constructed world shattered by the very greed she had so confidently embraced. I didn't gloat. I felt no savage triumph, only a profound sense of vindication and a deep, aching sadness for the man I had loved, who had to go to such lengths to protect me. Robert's final act was not one of revenge, but of unwavering love and profound protection. He had built me a new foundation, a safe harbor in a world that had tried to cast me adrift. With the legal battles behind me, I began to rebuild my life, not from ashes, but from a solid, loving foundation Robert had ensured. I established the Robert and Kate Carmichael Legacy Foundation, dedicating a significant portion of the trust to supporting aspiring architects from disadvantaged backgrounds, providing scholarships and mentorship, ensuring that Robert's passion for building, for creating, would live on through new generations. I also funded a program for historical preservation, specifically for overlooked community archives, a quiet nod to my own life's work. I moved out of the grand house, which had become too large, too filled with bittersweet memories. I bought a beautiful, sun-drenched condominium overlooking Lake Michigan, a place of peace and light where I could read, write, and simply be. My days were filled with meaningful work, not just in managing the foundation, but in advising young scholars, in volunteering at local historical societies, in pursuing my own quiet passions. I reconnected with old friends, traveled to places Robert and I had always dreamed of seeing, and found joy in the simple, profound beauty of a life lived authentically, on my own terms. My connection to Robert never faded. He was with me in the rustle of turning pages, in the quiet strength of the lake, in the laughter of the students whose dreams we now help to build. His tie clip, the unassuming silver piece that held the first clue to his magnificent plan, became my most cherished possession, a tangible reminder of his enduring love and his incredible foresight. I often held it, feeling the warmth of his memory, knowing that our story was not one of loss, but of an eternal bond that even death could not sever. Sometimes, when the wind whispered off the lake, I would swear I heard his voice, a low chuckle, a gentle encouragement, and I would smile, knowing that he would be proud. Proud not of the money, but of the freedom, of the purpose, of the life I had built, fiercely and authentically, on the foundation of his unwavering love. The Robert and Kate Carmichael Legacy Foundation quickly flourished. We attracted a small, dedicated team who shared our vision, to not just fund, but to truly nurture talent. One of our first beneficiaries was a young woman named Maya Rodriguez, a brilliant aspiring architect from a tough neighborhood in the Bronx. Her designs were bold, innovative, yet deeply rooted in community, echoing Robert's own philosophy. Through the foundation, Maya received a full scholarship to a prestigious architecture school, along with a living stipend and personal mentorship from seasoned architects. Watching her grow, witnessing her designs come to life on paper, was a profound joy, a testament to Robert's enduring spirit. Similarly, we supported a budding historian, Noah Vance, who, with our funding, uncovered and digitized a trove of forgotten civil rights-era documents from a neglected community archive in rural Alabama. His work brought vital history to light, reminding me of my own early days in dusty university basements. My new life unfolded with a gentle rhythm, a stark contrast to the previous years of quiet grief and then public turmoil. My condominium overlooking Lake Michigan became my sanctuary. Each morning, I would watch the sunrise paint the sky in fiery hues, a fresh canvas for a new day. My balcony, now adorned with vibrant petunias and fragrant herbs, offered a peaceful retreat where I would sip my morning tea and read not academic texts, but novels, poetry, anything that sparked joy and wonder. I had always been drawn to the quiet beauty of words, and now, with abundant time and a mind unburdened by stress, I devoured them. I also rediscovered my love for travel. Robert and I had always dreamed of exploring the ancient wonders of the world, but life, and then his illness, had intervened. Now, I found myself booking trips, not to crowded tourist traps, but to places where history breathed. The sun-baked ruins of Pompeii, the hushed halls of the British Museum, the winding cobblestone streets of medieval European towns. I reveled in the tactile experience of history, touching weathered stones, imagining the lives of those who walked before me. Each journey was a conversation with the past, a continuation of my life's work, but now, purely for the joy of discovery. I found unexpected companionship in these travels, often joining small, specialized tours, meeting fellow enthusiasts who shared my passion for unraveling the threads of history. Diana, my former stepdaughter, occasionally resurfaced on the periphery of my new, peaceful existence. I would see her name flash across a minor news headline now and then, usually associated with failed legal ventures or diminished social engagements. A mutual acquaintance once mentioned, with a touch of schadenfreude, that Diana had attempted to open her own boutique law firm after being let go from her previous one, but it had struggled, unable to regain the trust she had so publicly squandered. She had apparently even tried to re-engage with Robert's old business associates, but they too had distanced themselves, wary of the scandal that still clung to her name. I heard she eventually moved to a smaller city, a place where her past was less scrutinized, attempting to build a new life far from the gilded cage of Chicago's legal elite. I felt no satisfaction from her struggles, no sense of triumph. Her fate was her own consequence, a natural outcome of her choices, and it no longer had any bearing on my own serenity. My life was too full, too rich with genuine purpose, to dwell on the shadows of the past. My days were a blend of fulfilling work and quiet contemplation. I spent hours at my old university, not teaching, but mentoring, sharing my experiences, both academic and personal, with eager young students. I would recount tales of discovering hidden documents, of piecing together forgotten narratives, always emphasizing the importance of ethical rigor and the pursuit of truth. I often found myself speaking, not just about historical research, but about resilience, about forging one's own path, about defining success on one's own terms. History, you see, I would tell them, my voice softened by years of wisdom, is not just about dates and names. It's about patterns, about human nature, about the enduring power of choices. Every decision, every hidden motive leaves a trace. And sometimes, the most profound truths are found not in what's prominently displayed, but in the subtle clues, the footnotes, the things others overlook. My own life, I realized, had become another such historical narrative, a testament to the quiet power of discerning those hidden truths. As I approached my 70th birthday, a milestone that once might have filled me with trepidation, I felt instead a profound sense of peace. I hosted a small gathering at my condominium, inviting a close circle of friends, former colleagues, and a few of the brilliant young minds from the foundation. The room hummed with genuine warmth and laughter. Maya, now a rising star in her architecture firm, presented me with a stunning, intricate model of a community center she designed, its foundation featuring a subtle infinity loop, a nod to Robert and our story. Noah, the young historian, gifted me a beautifully bound collection of the digitized civil rights documents, each page a testament to a truth brought to light. Looking around the room, I saw not just faces, but lives that I had touched, passions I had helped ignite, futures I had helped secure. This was my true legacy. Not the millions in the bank, though that provided the means, but the human connections, the vibrant lives, the quiet ripple effect of Robert's love and my unwavering commitment to his final protective gesture. I still visited Robert's grave periodically, not out of sorrow but out of connection. I would sit by his headstone, beneath the sturdy oak tree, and share my quiet victories, my new adventures, the flourishing of the foundation. I would talk about the students, the historians, the architects whose dreams we were helping to build. I would tell him about the sunrise over Lake Michigan, about the taste of fresh basil from my balcony garden, about the feeling of sand between my toes on an ancient beach. I would tell him, simply, that I was happy. And I knew, with a certainty that transcended words, that he heard me, and that he was smiling. My life, at 68, was a tapestry of my own making, rich with threads of resilience, purpose, and enduring love. The woman who had once stood frozen, erased from a will by a disdainful daughter-in-law, had been reborn. I was no longer defined by loss or betrayal, but by the quiet strength of my own spirit, the wisdom gleaned from life's challenging chapters, and the profound joy of living authentically. Robert's final gift was not just financial security. It was the ultimate liberation, the freedom to define my own worth, to chart my own course, and to build a legacy rooted in compassion, integrity, and genuine connection. This is my story, a testament to the unyielding power of self-belief and the courage to chart your own course. Have you ever been told you're not enough? Have you ever faced betrayal or harsh condemnation from the very people who were meant to lift you up? to champion your dreams? Remember this: your true worth is not, and never will be, measured by the approval or disapproval of others, no matter how influential they may seem. It is measured by the strength of your own spirit, by the integrity of your actions, and by the unwavering conviction with which you pursue your truth. Don't let anyone define your limits, no matter how loudly they speak or how confidently they pronounce their judgment. Fight for yourself, for your dreams, for the authentic life you are meant to lead, even if it means standing alone against them. Because sometimes, the greatest failures in the eyes of others, the most profound rejections, become the fertile ground for your most extraordinary triumphs, the unwavering foundation upon which you build something far grander, far more meaningful than anyone could have ever imagined. You are the architect of your own destiny, the captain of your own soul. The world is vast, filled with unseen challenges and boundless opportunities. Embrace the journey, with all its storms and sunrises, with all its hidden battles and quiet victories. Never, ever let anyone else's narrow vision limit the boundless potential that resides within you. Live your truth with courage, with unwavering conviction, and with the quiet, profound knowledge that your greatest validation will always come from within. For when you do, the respect you seek will find you, not as a prize you chase, but as a natural consequence of your authenticity, your resilience, and your unwavering strength. The path you carve, however lonely it may sometimes feel, will be the one that leads you to your truest self, to a life defined by your own unwavering purpose, and to a legacy that transcends fleeting judgments and superficial triumphs. This is not just a story of survival. It is a story of profound self-discovery, of reclaiming one's narrative, and of building a life so authentically powerful it renders all past criticisms utterly irrelevant. It is a testament to what happens when you decide that your own light will shine. No matter how much darkness others try to cast upon you, it is a beacon for anyone who has ever felt diminished, a reminder that the power to rise, to thrive, to truly live, lies within.